So we talked a lot about Kirby Doc and that trade that sent him to the Canadiens in our full episode that we put out earlier this week. Also, as a result of the flurry of activity, Alexander Romanov is now in New York with the Islanders. So you would look at the roster with the Canadiens, right? You'd think, okay, there's a hole on the left-hand side. The Canadiens could, in theory, tap into their prospect pool or have one of those guys get called up to do it. But what if they decide to get a more veteran option? How do you guys see that playing out with regards to replacing Alexander Romanov? Is it better to have one of the younger guys replace him internally, or is it better to go out in free agency or through trade to get that replacement? What would you do?
For me, I would like to see some of these kids, jump in there and give a real good opportunity to play, because they do have some really good players that are coming up in Gooley, and what about Norlander? Another name that showed himself very well. This is the future. I think that these kids, if properly managed, should be able to progress in a really positive way. And I don't see the big sense of urgency for them to have to run out and grab necessarily a veteran guy. They have Savard, Edmondson, quality guy in the dressing room and outside the dressing room that can keep things on the straight and narrow. So I think they're in a good position back there. Less Romanov with what they have, and I think that hopefully they'll be able to handle themselves and do the job. But I have confidence in that group and the potential of some of these kids to come in and do the job for them. Not saying that they are going to have their moments as they are inexperienced back there, but the potential and the upside is far greater than the downside.
If Ken Hughes trades Jeff Petrie, I can see him finding a veteran guy to replace him. Although after the draft, Hughes sounded a little less certain that might be what he'd do. He sounded more like he might be confident to just go with the young guys, even if it's replacing Petrie. But for Romanov, I mean, I look at Caden Gooley. He almost made this team last season. He probably could have made this team last season. I think he steps right into that spot and could even be an upgrade on Romanov. So I think that definitely played into the thing. This kid, everything he really impressed me last year during the preseason games. Captain of Team Canada, leadership qualities, calm, very confident. In dealing with him last season when he was at the camp, he reminded me of Slavkovsky in a lot of ways. Like, you can't believe this kid was only 18 or 19. Very confident, very sure of himself. So I think to me, he's the guy who just steps into that spot quite comfortably, and it might even be an upgrade, and with the lesser salary than what Romanov is going to get as a restricted free agent.
Yeah, I think one thing to keep in mind in looking at how the defense is going to work next year is what St. Louis did down the stretch last season, right? Not everybody's going to play every game, and not just because of injuries. I think there's going to be a rotation on that, especially the third pair, but maybe even the second pair. You're probably going to have a first pair that's Edmondson's going to be the guy who's at the top, taking the tough minutes, and maybe you'll have a rotation of the young guys beside him that can test them out, see who handles it the best. But overall, I think there's going to be a rotation of players. Everyone's going to get their opportunities. Guys like Chris Weidman, I think that I keep forgetting that he was added back to the team. I don't think he'll play every game, right? He'll be on the power play, but he'll have times where he's sitting and watching the press box, and he seems to be okay with that. He just seems to be like a great guy to have around the team. And it seems like that's what's going to help, to me, shepherd these young kids in, is guys like Edmondson, guys like Savard, guys like Weidman, who above and beyond their hockey skills just seem like fantastic people in that locker room. They're going to be able to tell guys like, hey, you might be sitting, but like, pay attention. This is not a punishment, right? This is just a rotation, and you can learn things up in the sky that you might not have seen on the ice. And I think this is going to be a really good situation for them, for everybody to learn and adjust to the NHL a little bit. That they got a cup of coffee at the end of the year, guys like Jordan Harris, Justin Barron. Now they're going to get a flask or like a big mug, right? Like one of those, like an insulation cup of coffee. But it'll be fun to watch and see who sinks and who swims.
That's why I think Weidman was a really good signing, because he's just such a positive influence in the room. Julian, you might have seen him in the media lounge at the Bell Center. He was a healthy scratch with the young guys. The young guys were like hovering around him. He was like the leader of that group, and like say, turning a negative experience into a positive. He's a positive guy. We look at the way he defended his teammates last season. I remember there was a game in New Jersey when Suzuki got ran, and he was the first guy in there. And after the game, he says, if we let Suzuki take SH something, they're going to keep doing it. We got to let players know they can't do that. So he was such a leader for this team last year. You can make him a healthy scratch. He won't complain. You could even send him down to Laval. He'd be the best defenseman in the AHL, or one of the best defensemen in the AHL if he did that. But he's just a really good team guy. And I think when you're building a young team, you need guys like that. You don't need veteran guys who are going to sit around and sulk if they're not in the lineup. You need guys who are going to be a positive influence. And Chris Weidman is a perfect guy to fit that role.
He fought Mark Scheifele too.
Yes, that's right. That's right. He certainly did. He said, he's not a big guy. Chris,
no,
he's a guy. He spent the year in the KHL, and he said last year, every day he was in the KHL, he was like, "What can I do to get back to the NHL?" He got back here, and the Canadiens rewarded him for that. Right? They gave him a 2-year deal. He was a really positive influence on this young team last season, and I think he'll continue to be that moving forward.
All right. Visit hockeyinsideout.com for full episodes, subscribe to our YouTube page, and subscribe to the Hockey Inside Out newsletter, montrealgazette.com/newsletters. I love these bonus episodes. Let's keep these going.